Okay, so here we are. We've got our web page, and you can see that our what we called product boxes, these different boxes, are lined up such that they go one after the other. Okay? And wouldn't it be nice if we could have them line up maybe 3 on a row? Like, for example, here's shoes, here's TV, here's furniture, and then on a new row we had computers, automobiles, bicycles. All right, so how do we do that? Okay, now we're getting into a concept that is very fundamental. You have to know it, and it has to do with what's called the box model. Okay, the box model and these what are called default display properties. Okay, now by default, these div tags here have a layout property that is called block, and that essentially it simply means that they get their own line. It means it belongs completely to them. So here's a line. The web page, essentially, the logic behind your web page thinks this way. Here is a line coming from here all the way over to the end of the browser. Okay, and here's another line. Okay, and this div tag here will not share it if given its default layout, which is block. Okay, we have 3 types. We have block, inline, and inline block. Okay, and we're after the one for inline block, and I'll explain why in a minute. Okay, it will not allow this next div tag to sit on the same line as it unless you change its property in CSS. Okay, so here's the way I think I conceptualize it. And so I create new div tags, and I call them strips, because we're going to have a strip. We're going to have one strip going across the page this way, and then we're going to have another strip going across the page this way. You can call them rows. You could call it a row if you want. That's fine. So I create one here, and I'm going to create one down here. Okay. And we open it up, give us a little space, and I take all of these tags here, copy, cut, paste, and then I do the same with these, copy, cut, give ourselves a little more room here, and give ourselves some room here. Okay. Okay. And we're going to paste those in there. Okay. And so, now what we're going to do is, remember, this strip, this div tag, is not going to allow this strip to be on the same row or on the same line as it. Remember? Okay, so now it's not at this point. It's not going to change the layout of these tags. Okay, but if we give them the display property of, remember here we have product boxes. Each one of these tags, those squares, is a product box. Now we can adjust its structure by doing this. Display, how is it going to be displayed? Remember, right now, that particular tag, its default is block. Okay? So we want to give it in what's called inline block. Now, what does inline block mean? Okay, it means that it has the block properties in the sense that it will respect the width, it will respect the height of that tag. It will say, yes, you still have those. We'll still give those to you. But it will be inline, which here it just essentially means on the same line. It means it can sit on the same line with other div tags. Okay, so now by doing this, we have given all three of these div tags the ability to sit on the same line. And in fact, they will do that. If you give elements next to each other the display property of inline block, this right here, this tag, is going to come boom, 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 and sit up right next to its friend there. It doesn't matter that here in our HTML file I put it down below it. If I want it, it really doesn't make one bit of difference. I could put it over there. Okay, the web page is not thinking that way, right? The browser's not thinking that way when it displays it. Okay, so it really doesn't matter. If it helps you to put it up there, that's fine. I think I actually used to do that sometimes. I mean, visually it makes more sense, but it doesn't in actual fact. So now remember, what we have here is these strips. It's still remaining. It still is keeping its default property of block. So it is going to jump down to a new line and start over in its layout. All right. So let's see what happens when we refresh it. Oh, and by the way, on a Mac, you can hit the Command key and R. You don't have to go over here and click this refresh. You can hit Command R. And if you want to really refresh, which sometime and later maybe it would, well, why not tell you now? You can hit Command Shift R, holding down Command and Shift together, because every once in a blue moon, once you get into having a ton of CSS files, okay, and they start stacking up on each other, what does happen every once in a while is it doesn't fully refresh. Your browser's cache will maintain that CSS file. So just keep that in mind. It's called a hard refresh. Okay, so at any rate, here we go. Bam! Now they are on they're on different lines, right? And that's what we were after. Okay.